Hey, what's up everybody? It's your mortgage expert, Brian McCauley here. So are you a buyer out there in Dallas, Texas looking to buy a house, trying to compete on multiple offers, and you're hearing this word appraisal waiver, and you want to know what it means? Stick around. In this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. Listen, as the DFW housing market continues to heat up, what we're starting to see is more and more competition on buyers. Now, competition can be wrapped around a ton of things, obviously price being one of the main ones, but what we're starting to see in today's market again is these sellers asking for appraisal waivers. So an appraisal waiver is when a property is listed at a certain amount, let's say $800,000, and you've got multiple buyers bidding on the property. So one may bid at $800, one may bid at $810, one may bid at $820. Well, an appraisal waiver basically says, hey, if you're willing to pay more for the house than what it's actually worth, me as the seller or the seller's agent, we're gonna list it at $800,000. We think it's worth $800,000. We think it'll appraise for $800,000, but if you wanna go over, you're gonna be responsible for whatever the delta is, and we're gonna ask you to do an appraisal waiver or waive the difference, and that way you as the buyer have to come out of pocket on the difference if the appraisal doesn't come back in for the additional amount. So price is $800, multiple offers, buyer says, hey, I want to pay $820 for it. They accept and say, sure, we'll take your $820, but between $800 and $820,000, you are technically responsible for that delta, that $20,000. Now, as a buyer, there's a couple things I want you to understand. Number one, it doesn't mean you're automatically responsible for that $20,000 right then and there. The reason the sellers and the listing agents put that information into the contract about the appraisal waiver clause is because in Texas, the purchase contracts naturally default back in the language and protect the buyer. What it basically says in there by law is if the buyer is paying X for a house and the appraisal doesn't come back for that amount, the buyer can obviously walk away. Well, in the event there's multiple offers on the property and the buyer's willing to go above the purchase price, the listing agent knows, hey, if they want to pay more, that's great, but if the appraisal doesn't come back, technically the buyers can walk away, and I don't want to get 2 weeks into escrow into the transaction, have the appraisal come back short, the buyer either be in a position to where they can negotiate the terms down or they can walk away from the contract, and the sellers and the listing agent has to start over. So what they do is they go in and write some verbiage in there that says, hey, we are willing to give you the property at this price. However, if the appraisal doesn't come back for at least X amount of dollars, which obviously is the overage the buyer is willing to pay for it, the buyer is responsible for that delta out of pocket, okay? So here's the fun part. Two things about this. Number one, Fairway has an appraisal program on conventional loans right now called a Fast and Easy. A Fast and Easy means no appraisal is even required on the property when our internal system likes the estimated value, and it won't even ask for an appraisal. So if you had an $820,000 purchase price where it was originally listed at $800,000, if you put at least 10% down and you're eligible for our Fast and Easy, we may not even require an appraisal, which means you don't have to worry about coming out of pocket on an additional $20,000. So that's part one. Part two is just because a property was listed at $800 and a buyer is willing to pay $820 for it, and they're going to sign an appraisal waiver clause in the contract, it doesn't mean that they're responsible for it right then and there. What happens is once I get the contract, I order the appraisal comes back, and obviously the appraiser, he or she will send us a copy of the report. The report will show the actual value versus what the realtors thought the value was. And in the event there is a shortage, whether it's all $20,000, $5,000, $10,000, then obviously the buyer would be on the hook for the delta, and they would have to come out of pocket that additional money in conjunction with their down payment and their cash to close. But hang on one sec. What we've been seeing with the market starting to trend up is property values are starting to move up quickly behind them. The data lags about 30 or 45 days, but what I'm seeing a lot of times is somebody's willing to go in at $820 and the property's listed at $800 and the property actually comes back at $820. So what happens in that scenario? Well, you as the buyer are ready to go. You're good. You don't have to come out of pocket that additional $20,000. All you do is you do your down payment based on the $820 and not the $800. So for you as the buyer, it's really nice because you may have had to jump other offers at $805, $810, $815 to get the property under contract, willing to risk the $20,000, but either via the Fairway Fast and Easy program or a strong appraisal, that appraisal report actually came back at value or higher, and you don't have to be concerned with coming out of pocket on the extra expenses. So This is something that I want everybody to pay attention to moving into the backside of this year. As the market continues to heat up and things get stronger, what you will see is have listing agents and sellers say, hey, we've got multiple offers on this property. We're listed at $800,000. You as the buyer can overbid by as much as you want, but we're gonna write a quick clause into this contract that says, in the event the appraisal doesn't come back for the additional amount, you as the buyer are gonna be responsible for that cash portion in conjunction with whatever your down payment is, and you gotta marry the two together. Now, what I try to do in those scenarios is, again, put our buyers in a position to where they are eligible for the Fairway Fast and Easy, so we don't even have to worry about the appraisal, you don't have to worry about coming out of pocket, and everyone wins. But in the event they don't qualify, what we will still do is send a really strong appraiser out to the area, make sure that they understand the comps, they understand the market, they understand the trends, and try to get the appraisal back as fast as possible to see if it's low, if it's high, if it's somewhere in the middle, so that way you as the buyer understand your options, understand the delta, and understand exactly what the out-of-pocket expense is. So listen, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, even share it with somebody you know that could benefit from this information. If you want to set up a consultation with me, talk about the state of the housing market, even try to put yourself in a position to get pre-approved or buy a house, call us, email us, text us. We're always here for you. Until next time, stay tuned.